My name is Robert, and I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but after what happened to me, I can't stay silent. I was an ordinary teenager, focused on school, friends, and my phone. Faith, it wasn't something I thought about often, but on the day I died, everything changed. What I saw, what I heard, it was real, and it was terrifying. I was gone for just a few minutes, but in that time, Jesus showed me things that shook me to my core. This is my story, and if you're reading this, please listen. Time is running out. It was just another regular day. Nothing special, nothing different. I woke up to my mom calling me for breakfast like she did every morning. I groaned, pulled the blanket over my head, and scrolled through my phone for a few more minutes before dragging myself out of bed. Just another Monday. I got dressed, grabbed my backpack, and headed out. The morning was cold, but I barely noticed. My mind was somewhere else. Text messages, plans for the weekend, school drama. If you had asked me what I was thinking about, it definitely wasn't God. I wasn't against faith or anything, but I wasn't exactly the praying type either. Church was just something I sat through for my mom's sake. As I walked to school, I had no idea I was only hours away from crossing a line most people never return from. Lunch was the same as always. Loud, full of people talking over each other. My best friend cracked a joke, and we laughed until our stomachs hurt. It was a good moment, but one I barely remember now, because after lunch, everything took a turn I could have never expected. I was standing by my locker when I heard someone calling my name. It was my friend from class, waving me over to walk outside together. I slammed my locker shut and jogged to catch up. We were halfway across the parking lot when I heard it. Screeching tires. I turned my head just in time to see a massive truck barreling toward me. My friend screamed. I had no time to react, no time to run, and then impact. A force like nothing I'd ever felt hit me, lifting me off my feet. Pain exploded through my body. The world spun, everything blurring together in a mess of noise and motion. Then, silence. For a moment, I thought time had stopped. The sky above me was frozen. The people around me standing still. But something felt wrong. I wasn't cold anymore. I wasn't even touching the ground. I looked down and I saw my own body lying there, twisted, lifeless. My friend was screaming, people rushing over, but I wasn't there anymore. I was floating above it, watching it all unfold like a scene from a movie. Then I felt it, something pulling me. It wasn't gentle, it was strong, unrelenting. I was being dragged, pulled towards something I couldn't see. That was the moment I knew I was dead. I don't think people realize how fast life can change. 1 second I was laughing with my friend, the next I was gone. No warning, no last words, just an instant, and everything was over. I remember the impact, the way my body felt weightless for a split second before crashing back down. The sound of metal crunching, people screaming, tires screeching. It should have lasted forever, but it was over in a heartbeat. And then silence. I didn't feel my body anymore. No pain, no breath, nothing. Just stillness. I opened my eyes expecting to see the ground, but I wasn't there. I was floating. It took me a moment to understand what I was seeing. My body was on the pavement, completely still. My arms twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood pooled beneath my head. My friend knelt beside me, screaming my name, shaking me. I tried to reach out to tell her I was right there, but my hands passed through her like smoke. Then the pull started. It was like something had latched onto me, dragging me away from the world I knew. I fought against it, but there was no resisting. I was being taken, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. At first, I thought maybe I was going to heaven. That's what's supposed to happen, right? When you die, you see a bright light and you go toward it, but there was no light, only darkness. And the further I went, the colder I became. I felt like I was sinking into something thick, like ink or tar. Voices whispered around me, but I couldn't see anyone. The words weren't clear, but I knew they weren't friendly. Then I heard something else, a voice deep, commanding, and full of power. Stop. Everything froze. The darkness, the whispers, the pulling. It all stopped in an instant. And then there was light. Not just any light. This light was alive. It cut through the darkness like fire through paper, and standing in the middle of it was a figure. I knew who he was before he even spoke. Jesus. And he didn't look happy. At that moment, nothing else mattered. Not my body, not my life, not anything I had left behind. I was standing before Jesus, and I knew without a doubt that he was real. His presence was overwhelming. It wasn't just light, it was power. It filled everything, piercing through me, exposing every thought, every action, everything I had ever done. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. Then he looked at me and I felt everything: love, sorrow, disappointment. I wanted to drop to my knees to beg him for mercy, but I had no control over myself. My entire being was laid bare before him. Then he spoke. "Robert, do you know why you are here?" I tried to answer, but no words came out. He didn't wait for a response. Instead, he lifted his hand and suddenly I was seeing my life, all of it. Every moment, every choice, every sin I had ever committed. It played before me like a movie, except I felt everything, every emotion, every consequence. I saw times I had hurt people, times I had ignored those in need, every lie, every selfish action, and I felt the weight of it all. Jesus wasn't punishing me, he was showing me the truth. Then the visions changed. I saw something else, a world burning, people screaming, darkness spreading across the earth like a plague. And worst of all, people walking toward it willingly. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. And that's when Jesus said something I will never forget. This is what is coming. As soon as Jesus spoke those words, "This is what is coming," the light around us faded, and I was plunged into darkness. It wasn't just any darkness. It was thick, suffocating, alive. I felt cold, but not like the chill of a winter night. This was different. It was a kind of cold that sank into my bones, deeper than the body itself. A cold that wrapped around my soul and refused to let go. I wasn't alone. At first, I only sensed them, shapes in the shadows moving just beyond my vision. Then I heard them, whispers slithering through the air, words I couldn't fully understand, but instinctively knew were evil. Laughter, low, guttural, mocking. A voice, deep and distorted, spoke directly to me. "You don't belong here, yet." I turned, trying to find the source, but there was no direction in this place, no up, no down. I was floating in an endless abyss. Then suddenly I was falling. The pit swallowed me whole. The deeper I fell, the worse it became. The whispers grew into screams, cries of agony and despair. Shadows turned into figures, twisted, writhing forms reaching out, clawing at me, trying to drag me down further. The smell, burning flesh, decay. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I knew where I was. I had heard about it in church, but I never believed it was real. But there was no denying it now. This was hell. The screams were endless, layered on top of each other, never stopping. Faces appeared in the flames, some contorted in rage, others in sorrow. I saw people I recognized, some from school, some I had only met in passing. Their eyes locked onto mine, pleading, but I couldn't help them. Then I heard a voice I recognized. "Robert, help me." It was a friend, someone I had laughed with, hung out with, joked around with, someone who never took faith seriously, just like me. I saw his face. He saw me, and in his eyes I saw something I will never forget: regret. A pain so deep, so overwhelming that it swallowed every other emotion. I reached out instinctively, but something grabbed my wrist. "You cannot help them now, Jesus." He had pulled me out, and suddenly I wasn't in the darkness anymore. I was standing back in the light, but I wasn't relieved. My body shook, and my breath came in ragged gasps. "Why?" I choked out. Jesus looked at me, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Because they chose this." I wanted to argue, to say that no one would choose that kind of suffering, but deep down I knew what he meant. People reject him. They live like none of it matters, and when their time comes, it's too late. The weight of what I had just seen crushed me. And then Jesus said something even more terrifying. "This is only the beginning." Even though Jesus had pulled me out of the pit, I still felt something lurking in the darkness. I wasn't safe. I could feel eyes on me, watching, waiting. It wasn't just one presence, it was many, dozens, hundreds, thousands. They hid in the shadows, just beyond the light Jesus had surrounded me with. I turned my head slowly, and that's when I saw them. Figures, dark, twisted, with hollow eyes that burned with a sick red glow. They weren't human, they were something else, something ancient, something evil, demons. Their bodies flickered like smoke, shifting and distorting, but their eyes never left me. They stood in a vast circle surrounding the light, unable to step inside. But I knew what they were waiting for. They wanted me back. I could hear their voices. Some laughed, some whispered, some mocked. Not yet, but soon. "You think he'll keep you forever? You're ours, Robert. You were always ours." I wanted to cover my ears, but the voices weren't coming from the outside. They were in my head, pushing into my mind, filling it with doubt, fear, and hopelessness. I looked to Jesus, desperate for answers, but his face was unreadable. "Do not listen to them," he said. His voice was firm, steady. "But why are they here? Why do they know me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jesus looked at me with sadness in his eyes. "Because every time you chose sin, they gained power over you. Every time you ignored me, they grew closer." I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. I had ignored him. I had lived like none of this mattered, and now I was seeing the truth. The demons grinned. They knew that I knew, but Jesus wasn't done yet. He raised his hand, and the demons shrieked, recoiling. Some vanished into the void. Others stood their ground, still watching, still waiting. "You must understand, Robert," Jesus said, "the battle is not just for your body, it is for your soul." Then everything changed. The darkness faded, and suddenly I was standing before something massive. It stretched endlessly in both directions, tall, golden, radiating pure light, the gates of heaven. The moment I saw them, I felt something I couldn't describe, a pull like my very soul was being drawn toward them. It wasn't just a place, it was home. But then I saw the other side. A shadow spread across the horizon opposite the gates. It was deeper than darkness, stretching outward like a void. And from inside it, I heard the wails of countless souls. The contrast was unbearable. Light and warmth on one side, cold and suffering on the other. I turned back to Jesus, but he was already walking forward. I followed as we approached. I saw people streaming toward the gates. Some were walking with peace, some were hesitant, some were being pulled away. A force, invisible but unstoppable, dragged them back into the shadows. They screamed, begging, pleading, but the gates did not open. They clawed at the ground, at the air, at anything to hold on. I stepped back, shaking. "Why?" Jesus looked at me, his face filled with sorrow. "They never truly knew me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But they're calling your name. They're praying." Jesus nodded. "Many use my name, but few truly follow me. Their hearts were far from me." The gates stood firm. Those who belonged walked through with peace. Those who didn't were taken, and I couldn't do anything but watch. I turned to Jesus, my mind racing. I had known about him my whole life, but I had never really known him. And now, here he was, standing before me, more real than anything I had ever experienced. His eyes, I will never forget his eyes. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me, past my words, past my excuses, straight into the deepest parts of who I was. And for the first time, I understood what it meant to be fully known. I couldn't hide. Every lie, every sin, every time I had ignored him, he saw it all. And yet his eyes were filled with love. Not anger, not hatred, not disappointment. Love, overwhelming, unconditional, all-consuming love. I couldn't handle it. I dropped to my knees, unable to speak. Jesus stepped closer. His voice was gentle but filled with authority. "Robert, do you know why I brought you here?" I shook my head. I don't know. He reached out and suddenly I saw flashes. Images, memories, times when I had ignored his voice, times when I had chosen my own way instead of his, times when I had hurt others, when I had turned my back on him. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. "Because I love you," Jesus said, "and I do not want you to be lost." Tears streamed down my face, "But I don't deserve this. I failed so many times." Jesus smiled. "You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to follow." And in that moment, I understood. It wasn't about earning my place. It was about choosing him. Jesus took a step back, and suddenly the ground beneath us shifted. The sky darkened, the air grew heavy, and then I saw it, the future. The earth split open. Fires raged, storms tore across cities. I saw people running, screaming, crying out for help, but no one was listening, no one was coming. Destruction spread like a wave, covering everything in darkness. People fell to their knees, some in prayer, some in despair. And in the midst of it all, I saw figures, twisted demonic beings, moving through the chaos, whispering lies, leading people further into the abyss. I turned to Jesus, my hands shaking. What is this?" His voice was heavy. "What is to come if they do not turn back?" Terror gripped my heart. "But people don't know. They don't understand." Jesus nodded. "That is why I am sending you back. I didn't want to go, not after what I had seen. But then Jesus has said something that sent chills down my spine. Tell them, warn them, because soon the door will close." As soon as Jesus spoke, the vision before me changed. I was no longer looking at fire and destruction. I was looking at people. Regular people, living their lives as if nothing was wrong. They were laughing, eating, working, scrolling on their phones. Everything seemed normal. But then I saw what Jesus saw. Sin wasn't just around them, it was inside them. I watched as people gossiped, their words turning into dark smoke that wrapped around the ones they spoke about, suffocating them. I saw greed. Men hoarding money, ignoring the cries of the poor, their hands dripping with something thick and black. I saw lust, pulling people into chains without them realizing it. I saw lies slithering like snakes from people's mouths, wrapping around the ones they deceived. And worst of all, no one seemed to care. They laughed, they lived, they ignored the warnings. Then Jesus raised his hand, and I saw something that made my heart stop. People were marked. Some had light radiating from them, pure and strong, but others, their foreheads were stained with darkness, an invisible seal that only I could see. I wanted to warn them, to tell them what was happening, but they wouldn't have believed me even if I tried. The worst part, some of them went to church every Sunday. They sang, they prayed, they listened to sermons, but their hearts were far from Jesus. Their faith was just a routine, a checklist. They thought they were saved, but they weren't. Tears filled my eyes. Jesus, what happens to them? His voice was firm. Unless they turn to me with their whole hearts, they will not enter my kingdom. I broke inside. I had always thought believing in God was enough, but now I understood. It's not just about knowing his name, it's about knowing him. Suddenly, the vision faded, and I saw something new. A massive book floated before me, glowing with heavenly fire. I knew what it was before Jesus even spoke. The Book of Life. The book that contained the names of those who belonged to God, the ones who were saved. I held my breath as Jesus opened it. Pages turned one after another, covered in glowing names. Names of people who had surrendered their lives to him. Some I recognized, family members, people from my church. But then I saw the blank spaces, empty spots where names should have been. People who thought they were saved, people who had been good, who had gone to church, who had believed in Jesus, but had never truly surrendered. My hands shook. Jesus, why? His voice was heavy. They never gave me their hearts. They called my name, but they never followed me. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. Names fading. People who had once been faithful but turned away. People who had known the truth but chose the world instead. Their names blurred, dissolving into nothing. I couldn't breathe. Can they be saved? I asked desperately. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with sorrow. As long as they have breath, they have a chance. But soon the time will end. I felt sick. How many people think they are saved but aren't? How many have no idea that they're on the edge of losing their eternity? And then Jesus showed me something worse. I turned, and suddenly we were no longer alone. A figure stood before us, shining brighter than the sun, his presence radiating authority. An angel. His voice echoed, shaking the ground beneath us. The time is near. The judgment is coming. Many will be lost. My heart pounded. I wanted to argue, to beg for more time for the world, but the angel continued. They mock the warnings. They laugh at the truth. They choose darkness over light. And when the door closes, they will beg for mercy, but it will be too late. I dropped to my knees. Is there anything we can do? I whispered. The angel looked at Jesus. Jesus nodded. Tell them, the angel said. Tell them to turn back before the door closes forever. A deep sadness filled my chest. I had seen what was coming. I had heard the warnings, and yet I knew most people wouldn't listen. They would laugh. They would say, we have time. They would say, God is love. He wouldn't send anyone to hell. They would keep living like nothing was wrong until it was too late. Jesus spoke again, his voice soft but full of power. Tell them, Robert, tell them what you have seen. And I knew at that moment why I'd been sent back. Before I could ask anything else, everything shifted. The light around me dimmed and a strange force pulled me backward. Wait, I cried out. I don't want to leave. But it was too late. I felt my body again, the weight of it, the pain, the burning in my chest. I gasped, air rushing into my lungs like I'd been drowning. Voices screamed around me. He's back! We have a pulse! I opened my eyes, my vision blurry from tears. Bright lights, medical equipment, people hovering over me. I had returned, but I was not the same. The memories of what I had seen were burned into me. The faces, the screams, the book of life, the angel's warning. I tried to sit up, but a nurse pushed me down gently. Robert, stay still. You were gone for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That was all it took to see eternity. I looked around, desperate to tell them what had happened, but no one would understand. They would just think I had a hallucination. But I knew the truth. I had been given a second chance, not for myself, for them. For everyone who needed to hear this before it was too late. And so as soon as I could speak, I began to tell my story. Because Jesus is real, heaven is real, hell is real, and time is running out. The days after I came back were the hardest. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of what I had witnessed. The souls screaming, the book of life, Jesus' eyes filled with sorrow. The weight of it all crushed me. I tried to act normal around my family, but I wasn't the same person anymore. How could I be? Before, I cared about meaningless things. Social media, what people thought of me, entertainment. Now, none of it mattered, not after seeing what was coming. My parents thought I was just traumatized from the accident. My friends joked that I had been touched by heaven and laughed it off. No one understood. I tried explaining, but their eyes glazed over, like they weren't ready to hear it. That's when I realized the real battle. It wasn't just what I saw in eternity, it was what was happening on earth. People weren't rejecting God because they hated him. They didn't care. They were too distracted, too caught up in their own lives to notice how much time was slipping away. And that terrified me more than anything, because that's exactly how the people I saw in hell had lived. Ignoring the warnings, thinking they had time. I had been given a second chance. I had seen the truth, and I couldn't waste it. Jesus didn't bring me back just to go back to my old life. He brought me back for a reason. I kept hearing his words in my head, tell them. So I started talking, first to my family. My mom cried when I told her. My dad listened but stayed silent. My little brother didn't know what to say. Then I told my friends. Some believed me, most didn't, but I didn't stop. I wrote about it, I spoke about it. I told people in church, at school, online. I didn't care if they laughed or thought I was crazy, because this wasn't just a story, it was a warning. I told them about the people who thought they were saved but weren't. I told them about the names fading from the book of life. I told them about the demons waiting for those who chose sin over God. And I told them about Jesus, the way he looked at me, the way he loved me even though I didn't deserve it, the way he showed me that it's not too late to turn back, but soon it will be. Some listened, some didn't, but that wasn't my job. My job was just to tell them. If you're reading this, I need you to listen. This isn't just my story. It's your warning. I died. I saw what happens after this life, and I was given a second chance, but not everyone will get one. Jesus showed me the truth. Hell is real. It's not just for bad people, it's for anyone who ignores God. Anyone who thinks they can live without him. Anyone who rejects his love and chooses the world instead. Most people don't believe it. Most people think, I'll fix my life later. But later is running out. I saw what's coming. Jesus showed me. He said the time is near, that people need to wake up before it's too late. I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I don't care if they ignore me. I did my job. I told you, now the choice is yours. Jesus is waiting. He's been waiting. But soon the door will close, and once it does, there's no going back. Please don't wait. Turn to him now, because the time is almost up. After coming back, I realized that the battle I witnessed in the spiritual realm wasn't just happening there. It was happening here, around us, every single day. At first, I didn't notice it. I thought I could just go back to my normal routine while spreading the message Jesus gave me. But then the attack started. It began with nightmares. Dark shadows whispering in my sleep, showing me visions of the pit, the screaming souls, the demons that had been watching me. I woke up gasping for air, feeling like something was in the room with me. Then the doubts came. Maybe it was just a hallucination. Maybe you imagined it. No one is listening. Just stop talking about it. I knew these thoughts weren't mine. They were whispers from the enemy trying to silence me. And the more I spoke about Jesus, the worse it got. I'd wake up completely paralyzed, unable to move, while a dark shadow stood in the corner of my room. I was under attack because I had seen the truth, because I was warning others, and the forces of darkness did not want that. But then I remembered what Jesus showed me. I saw the power of prayer. I saw how the name of Jesus made demons flee, so I stopped being afraid. The next time I felt a dark presence, I spoke his name. In the name of Jesus, leave. and it left. Because the enemy has no power over those who belong to Jesus. That's when I truly understood. This world isn't just flesh and blood, it's spiritual. Every moment, souls are being fought over. Every choice we make, every decision is either pulling us toward God or pulling us away. And the enemy's greatest trick, making people think they have more time. But I saw the truth. I saw what happens to those who ignore the warnings, and I won't let fear silence me because there's too much at stake. Jesus didn't show me these things so I could keep them to myself. He showed me because the time is running out. I don't know the exact day or hour, but I know this: we are closer than ever. Look around, can't you feel it? The world is changing, chaos is rising, people are more divided than ever. Sin is everywhere, and no one cares. This is what Jesus warned me about. He said people would mock the truth, that they would call evil good and good evil, that they would chase after their own desires instead of turning to Him. And it's happening right now. Some people think they can wait until they're older to follow God. Others think just going to church is enough. But I saw the book of life. I saw names that weren't there, people who thought they were saved but never truly surrendered to Jesus. And when their time came, they were dragged away. I don't want that for you. Jesus doesn't want that for you. But the truth is, He won't force you to follow Him. You have to choose. And the worst lie the enemy ever told the world, that you have plenty of time, because one day you'll wake up and it will be too late. The door will be closed, and all that will be left is regret. So please, don't wait. Don't brush this off. Don't tell yourself you'll think about it later, because later may never come. Jesus is calling you right now. Will you answer?